We saw some big announcements from DC in the aftermath of Superman's opening weekend at the box office. Now, we've also seen big announcements from them before, like after Wonder Woman 1984 came out, they immediately said, hey, Wonder Woman 3 is on the way. Turns out that didn't exactly work out too well. And certainly all eyes are on the box office in the future for DC. We understand this is a reboot. We understand that this is the first movie of what they hope to be a decade worth of storytelling. They're trying to hype people up. They're trying to tell people that everything is perfect. And I got to say, they're having really solid holds domestically at the box office on Monday, Tuesday, and we'll see what Wednesday holds for them. And it looks like they'll probably have a pretty good hold over the weekend as well. There's some families and some kids, some positive reception for this movie. But there is something that everyone wasn't talking about initially. They're starting to bring up now, and that's the international numbers. Now, I talked about that from the opening weekend because I thought $125 million domestic, I think that's an okay opening for them. Certainly not blowing the roof off of anything. But that $220 million global total is fairly low for this Superman movie. It just is. There's no two ways around it. To put it in perspective, Ant-Man 3, Ant-Man opened at $225 million worldwide just 2 years ago. So this is fucking Superman. We understand it's a new universe, but this is still Superman and it's James Gunn. So that $95 million international haul was incredibly low. And now you're starting to find some people that are talking about this. Superman's box office, DC's reboot, is off to a stellar start with one lingering concern. And that lingering concern is basically half of your potential box office market. And has everything to do with that international run. Superman's lower than expected international box office haul could be a big problem in the long run. Superman opened to an estimated $125 million in North America, adding $95 million from overseas for a $220 million global bow. It's a strong start, but one that's raised concerns about just how high the Man of Steel will fly in the weeks ahead. Jurassic World Rebirth took an expected bite out of the movie, while Fantastic Four is also fast approaching. And you can see how people try to explain this and explain it away, and it's fucking wild. Now, Warner Brothers has already done this. Warner Brothers has come on trying to make excuses for the poor international performance with wild shit. You have the media trying to do that as well. The media is basically saying it's Trump's fault. It's Trump's fault why international audiences don't want to see an international or an American superhero, which is crazy. But I want to get to the actual fucking quotes because all over Asia, all over Europe, very poor returns for this movie. As the trade explained, along with general superhero fatigue, Superman has never been the global box office draw that Batman is, thanks to Christopher Nolan's Dark Knight trilogy. While there have been some arguments, the decline of U.S. image under Donald Trump is impacting a hero that for decades was associated with truth, justice, and the American way, even with Gunn downplaying the last part in his film. Box office history suggests it's not that simple. And you have other outlets that are kind of recognizing and admitting that same exact thing. Now, this is talking about budgets and salaries and all of the plans for the future that they're making. But I want to read this part. The refrain heard on Warner Brothers' lot in Burbank and around Hollywood was good enough, accompanied by a sigh of relief as Gunn's movie lifted off to $220 million worldwide. Zaslav took a victory lap before the ink was dry. And it was just the first step, but his posture struck many in town as odd and premature, given that CEOs rarely weigh in on publicity about a film's opening weekend. Now, we do see that sometimes. Bob Iger, famously, after Thunderbolt's opening weekend, was really proud to talk about all the future plans of Marvel. And that obviously flopped at the box office. Domestically, Superman stuck the landing, but international numbers are disappointing, says box office analyst Jeff Brock of Exhibitor Relations. For Superman to be one of the biggest summer blockbusters, not to mention reset an entire universe, the film needed to pack more punch in its debut. Obviously, the following weeks will tell the true box office tale, but has been viewed as slightly underwhelming start for DC and Warner Brothers. And that's kind of what I said when we got those initial things. There is no doubt domestically, with some of these returns during the week, it is clear that Superman's going to have positive momentum at the domestic box office, but a lot of people ignored the international. And I want to go to a statement from Warner Brothers as well. Jeff Goldstein, president of global distribution. We always knew this would be bigger in the U.S. than international. Superman has always been very American-centric. This is them, again, the same way that they told them, that they told you, we'll be happy if it hits $500 million. This is lowering expectations and preemptively making excuses. The idea that Superman is just an American box office thing, that Superman is only popular in America, that's not true. Everyone around the world knows who Superman is. And I mean, we can look at some things to go back this up. The only thing they have on their side would be Superman Returns, which made effectively exactly as much domestically as internationally. Disappointing box office results for Superman Returns in general. But let's look at some other iterations. And we can't pretend like this is a movie that always does better domestically than internationally. Man of Steel, $291 million domestically, $378 million internationally. Significantly more internationally than domestically. Batman v Superman, Dawn of Justice. Now, Batman's thrown in there for sure, but it's still a Superman movie. $554 million international, $330 domestic. And even back to the real one, 1978 fucking Superman, the first Superman movie, made significantly more internationally than it did domestically. Keep in mind, this is a different era for the box office. The 70s and the 80s, this is a completely different era. It was not the way it is now with international box office being so robust. Let's go to some of the biggest things that came out during that time period. Star Wars. Star Wars made significantly more domestic than internationally because that was just the standard. That was kind of the norm for the American domestic, or for the American box office to be substantially higher. E.T., just a couple years later, significantly higher domestic than international box office. Jaws from a few years prior, significantly higher domestic than international. Yet Superman, even in 1978, despite being an American hero representing truth, justice, and the American way, still made more internationally than it did domestically. Isn't that weird how that completely goes contrary to what Warner Brothers is trying to say and what some, trades are trying to make excuses for about the American-centric hero? And all of this is happening as they try desperately to globalize Superman as if he's not already popular around the world. They stayed away from truth, justice, and the American way. They removed that slogan, truth, justice, and the human way, on all the merch and all this shit. They intentionally did that to appeal to the international audiences. And it did not work. We're seeing incredibly soft returns. And that it does matter. And it is going to have an impact. For instance, I think that with the strongholds we're seeing for Superman at the US for the first couple days, and I think it's going to have a solid second weekend. We'll see what happens. I do think the movie's a lock to probably hit $300 million domestically, potentially even a little bit more. Let's say it even gets as high as $350 million. I think the international might struggle to get to 250 if that were the case. 300, 350, right in between that for domestic, you might have a tough time getting to 250 internationally with some of these returns, which means a movie that might struggle to get to $600 million. And I know that's not what DCU hype train accounts want to be talking about right now, because they are very solid holds for the first Monday, first Tuesday. And I think it'll probably make $50 million in its second weekend, have a really solid hold. But then Fantastic Four comes. And without those international numbers to bolster you, it should be a lingering concern for you to have surrounding this Superman movie.